Software in AV is not the future, it's now. The way we think about hardware and software today is going to look silly 15 years from now, because no one's going to care about it. No one's going to see the software. Like, it's not going to matter to you.
What do you think of it, Dexter?
It'll never amount to a thing. Yeah, that's what they said about the horseless carriage.
Well, let's get on with the show. Okay, boys.
Projection mapping on a waterfall, new eco standards, and the latest AVWeek economic numbers. All that and more next on AV Week. This is AV Week, episode 729, recorded Friday, August 8th, 2025. Invisible AV. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of the biggest news and stories in the AV and IT world. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. This week, we've got acquisitions, economic outlook, and sustainable products. Let's get into it. Zebra Technologies has announced plans to acquire Elo Touch Solutions in an all-cash deal valued at $1.3 billion with a B dollars. I wish that I had a cash for $1.3 billion. Anyhow, Elo is best known for its interactive displays and self-service kiosk. It generates roughly $400 million in annual sales. Zebra says the acquisition could expand its addressable market by $8 billion and boost core profit by $25 million within 3 years. The deal, set to close later this year, marks a strategic move into the growing world of connected frontline experiences. The latest AVWeek Business Index shows that AV sales index is holding in the high 50s, well below pre-2023 highs that were above 60. Now, for the index, a number above 50 indicates an increase in sales or employment activity, whichever one they're looking at. Employment also remains steady, but cautious at 55.6 as companies navigate inflation, tariffs, and global uncertainty. Now, while the sector is still expanding, growth is slower than historical 5 to 6% norm. Industry analysts say that the second half of the year will be a test of resilience and a barometer for 2026 for integrators, manufacturers, and AV end users alike. Extron has launched its Eco-Efficient program, highlighting AV gear that meets rigorous energy efficiency standards following the rumored phase-out of Energy Star for commercial equipment. As of this newscast, the EPA has not officially ended the program. However, there are several news reports indicating that the EPA is leaning in the direction of eliminating the Energy Star program. Products like the XPA Ultra Series amplifiers, DTP3 series extenders, and select NAV Pro AV over IP encoders now carry the Eco-Efficient label, signaling lower power consumption and reduced operating costs. Extron positions the program as both an environmental step forward and a business advantage for clients meeting sustainability mandates. And finally, Sennheiser has rolled out a free web-based wireless planner designed to take the guesswork out of specifying and configuring wireless microphone systems. Now, this is done through a step-by-step interface. Users can choose channel counts, receiver types, transmitter styles, antennas, accessories. It's seeing the entire system build out in real time. This is ideal for higher education, corporate conference spaces, and live events. The tool works with Sennheiser's SpeechLine digital wireless and EWDX product lines, making it easier for AV teams to design reliable setups before stepping on site. That's your AV news. Stick around for this week's roundtable, where we dig into the future of Pro AV and projection mapping on a frickin' waterfall. This is AV Week. Coming back from our newscast, Bren Walker from Kierkegaard. How are you, ma'am?
I'm doing great, Tim. Good to see you again. Happy Friday.
Good to see you. My papers are running away. Justin Dawson, Sir Justin Dawson from the Dublin City University. Welcome, sir.
Great to be back on, Tim. Great to see you.
And, of course, Pat from Pearl Technologies with our old friend Jeremy Caldera. How are you, sir?
Doing fantastic. Second time on, I was a little afraid after the first one I might not get an invite back.
Oh, no. Yeah, absolutely. It was fantastic the first time. So here we got a couple stories here. We might get to the third one. The first one, though, is from our friends over at AV Network. It's an article writing about, quite frankly, the shift to software. And they're talking about Really, the moving into Open AV cloud, it's an open source thing. The article goes on to talk about a significant shift away from hardware-heavy proprietary systems. Okay, as a former technology manager, that's a good thing. At least I think it is. Towards cloud-managed, software-defined infrastructures, moving more towards, operational expenditures instead of capital expenditures. That seems like a holy grail, right? Except that both in higher education and corporate, they're used to paying for their AV through CapEx, through capital expenditures. They're used to doing their IT infrastructure through operation expenditures, OpEx. But we're asking them, some of us are asking, some of those in the industry are asking, oh, hey, you've got OpEx, so why don't we just move, AV over to OpEx? But that shift has not exactly been smooth. Article also goes on to talking about open standards, interoperability, which again is either a dirty word or a fantastic word, depending on where you are in the AV ecosystem. Bren, we're going to start with you. And a very simple question. Where does software belong in the future of Pro AV?
It will be invisible. The software in AV is not the future, it's now. And it started being now when Dante hit the market.
Okay.
The way we think about hardware and software today is going to look silly 15 years from now, because no one's going to care about it. No one's going to see the software. Like, it's not going to matter to you. The future of AV, the keynote, the QSC keynote to and Infocom ago, last Infocom in Vegas, I think it was.
Yeah.
And he talked about the agentic era, right? You're not going to interact with software. You're going to interact with agents. And those agents are going to, I hope for the integrators who are relying on the potential service revenue of operations, that they are developing their own agents so that someone else doesn't develop the agent and steal all their business for that. Because that's what's going to happen. If agents, the next generation of ChatGPT 5, is so good at writing code and so much better at language prediction that it's going to eliminate a whole lot of support jobs. And it's going to eliminate the person who's going in and tinkering with software and tinkering with code. You're not going to do any of that. So it's now. And I'll just say that the big challenge, I think, for AV is not going to be around the software hardware question. It's not going to be around how do people fund, whether it's through operations or CapEx. It's going to be the fight for power. And AV devices need to continually use less power because AI is continually using more power. It's not an accident that Meta is trying to build their own plants, that Peter Thiel is the first person to invest in private uranium enrichment, that Sam Altman from OpenAI is on the board of a company that's producing power using water. None of this is accidental. They know how power hungry the AI technology is, and that is going to trump everybody in terms of the need for power in tech.
You've also got Bill Gates investing in a company that is trying to ramp up nuclear power as well. Not that anybody doesn't know who Bill Gates is, but he's also heavily involved in both the power creation as well as a number of these AI companies.
All of those people who were at the inauguration are trying to do this. So, and the reason why they're trying to do it is because they know that the existing power service is not sufficient. So where does AV fall in that? Where does your local, your enterprise fall in that? You got to be ready for it because the supply is going to be constrained. Your costs are going to go up, right? So the best thing AV can do for its customers is low power, low power, low power.
Justin, what sort of concerns as a somebody who is responsible for and on the front lines of these systems, what concerns do you have when it comes to migrating, to a software solution? And I will point out here that Justin is not from the States. He is in Ireland. Different power systems, different power structure. Not even talking about the differences in the frequencies or anything. So we in the States, and I'll get to that with Pat. But from your perspective, Justin, on the software side, what sort of concerns do you have as we move towards more software and fewer hardware pieces?
Well, Bren brought up a load of points that I'd like to just a bit dissect here,
Yep.
Tim. But to start off with your question there about power. Like here in Ireland, like we have a lot of the data centers that are controlling cloud, like Amazon, like Google and stuff. Only recently, and I addressed this in one of my last podcasts, Amazon has pulled the plug on doing one of their data centers here in Ireland. And I mean, like literally, I say about 15 minutes up the road from my house, because the fact is our grid gets overloaded all the frigging time here in Ireland. You know, like it got to a stage where I actually went out to my local technology store and bought myself a little anchor generator for the times where the power goes out. And now you could say about is the fact of a lot of houses being built. We have a housing crisis here in Ireland, but like the fact is our grid can't handle the pressure, and then they want to build a data center on top of it. As Bren said, like AI takes up a lot of power, like that. And do we want this to be the future of AV, of AI and cloud? Predominantly, this AI ends of things saying like having these trained robots to do these type of things. It's contradicting what we're trying to achieve, which is reducing and saving AV. Where my thoughts of the actual software ends of things comes into it is like, this is like the chicken and the egg that's been going on for ages, that, you know, IT is not AV and AV is not IT, but like it is the merging that's coming together. What I worry about on this front is that when it goes down software based, and it's the same over in the States as it is in Ireland, once you hear the word software based, you're talking about tiers of subscriptions. And this is something that is a big Pandora's box when it comes to higher education. When you have a set budget and they're like, oh yeah, well, we're going all software based, but you're going to have a subscription and we're going to be charging you on a monthly, yearly basis, and being able to try and explain that to your higher tier management. Oh, there's a cost and there's going to be a continuous cost on these things. It can be a good thing. It might reduce the amount of technicians and integrators that you have to be with. But then the layer of security comes into play of like, who's controlling this? Is it an AI person that can I even talk to a real person at this point? You know, it's here. It's been here for years. Like we can go back to the stage of going, you know, Spotify, iTunes, you know, all our vinyl records going onto a device. Like this is what has happened with software-based AV. Is it a good, like, I think the two of us are going to a great show now in a month's time, IBC, Tim, and I think like that's a real show of like broadcasting technology with AV, how they're doing cinema end of things more easily produced than the AV studios that we need to set up. It is a good thing, but it comes with a price, and the price is going to be the energy. I think Brent's really hit the nail on the head on that.
Pat, same kind of question. You know, when you're talking to your clients, you know, how do you navigate the difference? You know, because both Brent and Justin bring up some really good issues here. You've got a hurdle of the security, right? If everything's on the network, everything's software based, but you also have what I'll say is the total cost of ownership, and part of that total cost of ownership is the energy consumption. Is, you know, everything from how many watts a particular, let's say, in the entire rack takes, and then the heat that rack creates, and the offset of that when it comes to HVAC. And do not ask me the math because I don't know it, but I know that it exists. And Bren's laughing at me because she probably knows it off the top of her head. But how do you navigate that with your clients when they're just looking to, you know, They just want a video conferencing system, and now you've got to have these conversations with them about software, about security, and now about energy consumption. How do you walk them through each of those stages?
The energy consumption, that's to your point, something that hasn't come up. It doesn't come up very often in conversation. And as we do merge the IT and the AV into the same realm, Pearl Technology, we have an IT division here. Yep. where that's part of our everyday. But we can't just take two of our, guys behind the desk and ask them to go implement a conference room. There's a construction portion of AV that is always going to be a part of it. No matter how much we go to the cloud and how much we, shift things, there's always going to be that construction arm. But I think from a remote management standpoint, not having to roll a truck, like Bren said, there's service technicians that one day probably are not going to be needed, and we're going to have to shift those skill sets as we move the two together.
Just to pick up on something Justin said in terms of the higher ed and the just sort of fatigue that people have with monthly cost, open source is going to solve that. And I think the people who are getting their nut on the monthly service contract now, boy, get it now, because it's not going to be there. It's gonna go away, I think.
Well, my fear of that is like a prime example is Google. If you need to cut this out afterwards, please do. But like the fact is, Google is used on a lot of campuses here in Ireland and we use a lot of it for the cloud storage. Like, because we're working with the School of Nursing, we would have a lot of videos for, like, either a nurse is doing their examinations and we have to record the video, so we needed somewhere to host it. We're hosting it. At the time, once upon a time, we had unlimited space of Google Cloud. Then Google changed their terms and conditions, and all of a sudden, like, we're going, right, well, that's a bit of an awkward situation and sticky situation. Where do we hold our recordings? And that's the fear of, like, when you go down the software base with AV that might be able to afford it. It's the fact that they have you over a barrel if they change their terms and conditions and say, right, well, we've improved the software. It's going to cost you an extra $50 a year.
Well, here's the thing, really quickly, before we move on to the next story. Every, and I do mean every, software provider or anything as a service has the potential to hold you over the barrel, Justin. Because, yes, they did way deep in those terms and conditions and the things that we all click, I agree, without reading. Somewhere in there, they say that these can change without notice, or these can change in 30, 60, 90 days notice, right? And whether that's Microsoft and the 365 or 360, or it's Google, or it's Zoom, or it's anybody else, right? You have to make a choice as a user, right? I don't care if the user is higher education or corporate or whoever, a media company like AVNation, right? We're a Microsoft house predominantly, right? It's a choice that we made. That can, those terms and conditions can change, and they have in the last 5 years, right? So is Zoom's, right? I'm not going to sit here and go, oh, Microsoft's evil and Zoom has never changed things. Yes, they all do.
They all do.
Right?
They all do.
What's best for their company.
This sort of idea that they'll say, oh, now you got to pay more for, getting, just like with the free Gmail accounts. Yeah, yep. Back up your phone, back up your photos. Like, you'll be at 90% full of your allocation within like a week. And then it's, okay, now buy little bits, buy more data.
Yep.
For someone, the AV customers' data and having the biggest chunk of it is going to be worth, for some entity, that's going to be worth more than subscription revenue. And they're going to give the product away because they're going to make that deal. We want to anonymize the data, and we're not going to do anything to violate privacy. That anonymized data has more value than paying $40 a month. When you're trying to train models and you need huge, big sets of data.
All right, last story here. I guarantee we will not get to the third one. Last story. AV Magazine has a groundbreaking, and I do mean groundbreaking, projection. Maybe I should call it water breaking. I'll tell you why in a second. Projection installation at Victoria Falls, for crying out loud. Frickin' projection mapping on a waterfall. It's a really, really awesome spectacle. Mitchell will put a link on the site. 6,500 square meters for those of us in the States and the 3 countries that are still using Imperial at 70,000 square feet. 6,500 square meters, 70,000 square feet of projection mapping. The event is part of the ROAR, ROAARR initiative. It is aiming at fusing immersive storytelling, conservation, messaging, sustainability, and local empowerment, offering a new model for nature-first audiovisual experiences. Mr. Dawson, we'll start with you on this. What creatively can we take from something like this? I live in St. Louis. I have said this for 10, 15 years now. There are no readily available waterfalls in the local St. Louis area. There's one about 2 hours southeast of me. So I could not take this and go, oh, we should do this in downtown St. Louis because there's not a waterfall. But creatively, what could we take and take from this and apply this to, higher education, apply it to another corporate installation?
Do you know what? Like, being able to do this with moving water, like we do have a couple of projection mappings that go on every year, and thankfully the contract has been renewed. In just north of Dublin, in Drogheda, they do the Lou Festival, which is all Celtic stories, projection mapping on buildings across Drogheda, and but the point is, there are static buildings compared to projecting on water. And like they'd have at the Lou Festival, they have done one where they have sprayed water into the air from the river. And like, I talked to the AV technician team, and it's the fact that like there's all the logistics that you don't even think about, because it's a tidal river. Like, if the water raises or lowers, or is there going to be additional rainfall and so forth. Doing something like this, and how they actually generated and mapped this against moving water, that how do you know if there's going to be a drought? Now I don't know how much there's a drought.
That's a whole different ball of wax.
Yes. But do you know what I love, Tim? I'm going to go down this route. Like, the amount of Americans I speak to that never go into one of your nature reserves or any of your national parks. Well, this is the reason to turn around to your little son who might be addicted to his computer games and go, let's go out for a walk in a national park. I don't want to do that, Dad. There's going to be a big projection mapping like at night, and you're going to be able to see like a load of technology. It's incredible what we are doing now. Like, the nearest I've seen that's come to this has been the Lou Festival, but like, I would love to actually travel to actually see this. Like, that would put me on a plane. Closest to this is drone shows now, which I think is like going to be the taking over doing firework displays, and it's cheaper, and it's more. Is it better on the environment? I don't know, but like it's less immersive. Like this, it's just so incredible for those with also additional needs as well. Like, I've taken my son to some of these projection mappings, and it's just like the sounds, the visuals is just incredible. I want to actually go to this. I love to see behind the scenes of the amount of equipment that goes on to actually do this, and how they actually programmed this to actually be seamless against the water and at the waterfall. It's incredible.
All right, Pat, same kind of question is, how do you take this and talk to clients and go, okay, this is what's possible versus this is what's practical? Right. So yes, we can do this. And Pat's about 2 hours north of me. He also doesn't have any waterfalls, because I grew up where he is, and it's flatter than down here in St. Louis. But how do you take that and go, okay, yeah, this is possible, kids, but this is more either in your budget or what's practical for what your situation is?
I actually have a real life story for this one, so this was very fitting. And I just want to start by saying just how much we'll spend as parents on immersive experiences. You think of Universal Studios or the Van Gogh exhibit, even a hockey game in Vegas. The Vegas Knights intro is incredible. That's almost worth the price of admission right there.
Yep.
But we actually quoted, if you'll remember the Panasonic Mist, the fog projection, we actually quoted that for a customer last year, and we had no idea what that was going to look like going into it. But it was a great story to tell. They loved the video of it. They loved the way it looked. But by the time you brought in the water and the fine mister and all the technology that goes with it, it was going to be north of six figures for a small installation in a warehouse not far here from Peoria. So obviously it was a tough sell, but it does show you just the capabilities and what our industry is going to look like. Our conference rooms that used to cost $40,000 can now be done with one display on a wall. So this does excite me a little bit as far as the future and what this job is going to look like in 10 years.
Bren, you'll get the last word on this one. How do we take this, and Bren has a unique position because she actually might actually end up doing this one day for one of her clients. So, how do you take this and go, yeah, this is possible, but like Pat said, it depends on your budget. It depends on the your infrastructure. How do you walk a client through that, and maybe, I'm not saying walk them back from the edge here, but give them some parameters or some guardrails when it comes to either cost or feasibility?
So from a consultant point of view, it is understanding what the client's goal is, right? So the goal of this project is to make people aware of the natural environment in that region and to make them care about it, right? And that's one of the reasons why I like it so much, is because it makes people think about nature and then hopefully care about nature. Get out into it and care about it. Which up in Canada, here in Canada, we love our parks. We go all the time. So the other thing I would say is in St. Louis or in central US, you don't have waterfalls, but you have trees. And you have a stand of trees that people can be looking at from a distance. And if I wanted to projection map on that stand of trees, the easiest thing that I can think of, just like in terms of like a process, is I'm going to photograph those trees. I'm going to video those trees. I'm going to, again, AI can completely model those trees, model their movements. I can model the waterfall, understand its movements, which would tell me what my planar surfaces are. So, it's basically, if you can model the surface, then you can understand how you're going to hit the surface with light. And that will get easier and faster as we process more. And again, as we tax the grid in Ireland to be able to do all this processing.
We appreciate you, Justin.
Thank you.
Your tax regime is is the other reason why they're all there, but you know that.
Well, that is 100% accurate. That's a different story and a different...
Maybe with the power of a waterfall like that, wouldn't it be cool in the future if you're going, we're pumping the water into energy renewable that's powering this projector to do this all over like a hamster wheel? That would be cool.
Yeah. I actually talked with a manufacturer who I won't mention the name of about developing a panel that could also have solar behind it, right? So that if you're gonna have transparent LED, how much transparency can I get so that some of that sun is hitting that panel, going through, and I'm collecting energy, right? That was 2 years ago.
That's an idea.
They're getting closer from the last time I talked to them.
Okay, that's cool. We will wait to see that. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it. Bren Walker, how do people connect with you or Kierkegaard?
Bren at Kierkegaard.com. Don't look for me anywhere else. I'm just not.
Every once in a while on LinkedIn. She'll show up every once in a while on LinkedIn.
Every once in a
comment.
while. Every once in a while.
Sir Dawson, how do people connect with you or listen to your podcast?
You can join me on the All Things Techie podcast. That's available at allthingstech.ie. You can find me across socials on LinkedIn and on my official website, www.justinordawson.com.
All right, very good. Pat, thank you, sir. We appreciate it. How do people connect with you or Pearl Technologies?
Yeah, pearltechnology.com, and then my email is my first and last name with a dot in between there, pat.vendetti@pearltechnology.com, and I'm also on LinkedIn as well. So,
And I wasn't kidding. You should look up Pat on the Wikipedia. He really does have a Major League Baseball rule named after him. That's all I'll say about that. My name is Tim Albright. Don't follow me anywhere. If you want to read things that I write that have nothing to do with technology, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. But there's no pressure there, and I won't feel think lesser of you. But go by the website if you would, please. AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You will find this program and a host of others, including a brand new Women in AV, where Erica Carroll talks with Brianna Bloom from NEAT. Justin kind of referenced this in the beginning. We are actually heading to Amsterdam for IBC. If you're not familiar with what IBC is, if you know what NAB is, National Association of Broadcasters here in the States, IBC is the European version of that. So I will be there. Sir Dawson will be there. A handful of other folks that you have heard on this show will be there as well. That is the 12th through the 15th of September. Before that, though, I will be in Vegas for Bixby Beyond, the 18th through the 21st of August, doing 2 panels on AI in AV. So you can check that out and more at the website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That is all the time we have for AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
This is AV.
This
is AV Nation.
This is AV Nation.